In a heated argument recently, Pierre Poilievre took direct aim at Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Poilievre's incisive statements were more than simply about policy. They were a direct challenge to Trudeau's leadership and trustworthiness, paving the way for one of the most heated debates yet.
Demonstrates once again he is a fake and he is a phony because he's a fake and
Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, has a reputation for being a sharp-tongued critic who is not hesitant to confront his political opponents. In recent years, his most visible opponent has clearly been Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Prime Minister. Their clashes have become a regular occurrence in Canadian politics, each one more heated than the previous. However, their newest debate has escalated their feud, with Poilievre making one of his most personal and direct assaults on Trudeau so far.
Honourable member to continue with this question.
the Prime Minister is a fake and a phony on this issue, just like on everything else. He sends...
Poilievre's assessment was based on the status of Canada's economy, which many Canadians care profoundly about for obvious reasons, especially in light of the economic issues aggravated by the COVID-19 outbreak. Poilievre said that Canada's economic stability has deteriorated significantly under Trudeau's leadership. He cited increased living costs driven by inflation as crucial evidence of Trudeau's ineffective economic management.
NDP Liberal Prime Minister's taxes, debt, inflation, and promises, Canadians are hungry. Literally, according to the Food Bank's Canada report, 50% of Canadians say they're worse off than a year ago. 25.
Poilievre claimed that inflation is more than a number. It's a daily reality that impacts every Canadian's home. Rising costs for vital products and services, such as food, fuel, and housing, have put a burden on regular residents' finances. As property prices continue to rise, many people's dreams of becoming homeowners have gotten more remote. Poilievre pinned the responsibility firmly on Trudeau, accusing him of being out of touch with Canadians' economic reality. He stated that Trudeau's administration has prioritized ideological and politically acceptable initiatives above actual economic demands. Poilievre was particularly critical of Trudeau's handling of the federal budget. He cited the rising national debt, which has increased over Trudeau's term, and questioned the viability of further deficit spending. Poilievre cautioned that without a clear strategy to balance the budget, Canada risks entering a fiscal catastrophe with long-term ramifications for future generations. He contrasted this with the Conservative Party's emphasis on fiscal prudence, casting himself as a leader who would restore economic stability and guarantee that Canada lived within its means.
Percent are in food insecurity, and a quarter of young adults went to a food bank in 3 months alone this year. Why is it that Canadians who can't feed themselves have to keep feeding his morbidly...
Poilievre's assault also focused on Trudeau's management of government ethics and accountability. Several high-profile scandals have damaged Trudeau's leadership, calling into doubt his ethics and dedication to openness. Poilievre capitalized on these incidents, claiming that they demonstrated a dangerous pattern of behavior that should alarm all Canadians.
He didn't immediately take action. He took action after the media found out about it.
That's right.
His government has known that a Canadian MP had his family threatened because that MP voted for human rights in the House of Commons. He knew about that for 2 years. He did exactly nothing. Furthermore, the same diplomat that orchestrated these threats.
The SNC-Lavalin crisis, which exploded in 2019, was one of the most destructive, according to Poilievre. The scandal focused on claims that Trudeau and his close circle pressed then-Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould to intervene in a criminal prosecution involving SNC-Lavalin, a large Quebec-based engineering business. The incident resulted in a massive political impact, with Wilson-Raybould ousted from her job and eventually quitting the Liberal Party. The episode sparked major concerns about the judiciary's independence and how political influences impact judicial judgments in Canada. Poilievre also brought up the We Charity affair, which hurt Trudeau's reputation. The scandal centered on the granting of a $912 million government contract to We Charity, a group with strong links to Trudeau's family. The contract was supposed to run a student volunteer program. Still, it rapidly became a big political problem when it was uncovered that Trudeau's mother and brother were paid handsomely to speak at weed charity events. Poilievre said that this issue was not a single instance, but rather part of a larger pattern of ethical breaches and conflicts of interest that have plagued Trudeau's administration.
For taking a $250,000 vacation from a billionaire that was seeking a government grant from him. If he's got nothing to hide, will he tell us, did he take these $9,000 a night villas for free?
In both situations, Poilievre said Trudeau's conduct revealed a disrespect for ethical standards and a tendency to prioritize personal and political interest above the public good. He said Canadians could no longer trust a leader who had repeatedly been entangled in such issues and seemed more concerned with safeguarding his image than establishing accountability and openness in the government. Poilievre's assessment went beyond economic and ethical concerns, addressing what he views as a rising danger to free expression and democratic ideals under Trudeau's administration. In recent years, some Canadians have expressed worry that the government is seeking to regulate and control public debate, notably via measures forged at fighting disinformation and hate speech online.
Of language. You can always smell a rat when words are used to mean something other than what they say. And this bill is filled with such false words. Let's start with the very premise. Government purports to apply the Internet to the Broadcasting Act, or the Broadcasting Act to the Internet, even though the Internet is not a broadcast instrument.
While these laws have been portrayed as required to ensure public safety and social peace, Poilievre argues that they're a hazardous overreaction by the government. He accused Trudeau of creating a climate in which dissident voices are repressed, and the government determines what is acceptable discourse. He said that such laws undercut the fundamental ideals of free speech and open discussion, which are required for any functioning democracy. One of the central themes in this discussion has been the government's planned laws to control internet material. The contentious proposal would give the government the authority to monitor and erase anything that it considers damaging or deceptive. Poilievre voiced fear that such powers may be exploited, resulting in the repression of legitimate political conversation and the suppression of free speech. He said that Canadians should be suspicious of any government effort to limit what individuals may say or believe. The best approach to battle disinformation is via free and robust discussion rather than government-imposed limitations.
Canadian content, supposedly. The entire raison d'être of this bill, its reason for existing, is to promote Canadian content. Which two words appear nowhere in the 50-page bill itself? Canadian.
Poilievre's argument revolved around the larger issues of leadership and credibility. Throughout his speech, he attempted to paint Trudeau as a leader who has failed to deliver on his promises and has lost the confidence of the Canadian people. He contrasted this with his view of leadership, which he defined as founded on ethics, responsibility, and a dedication to serving the public good.
In the interests of Canada, while their family members are threatened as consequence of those votes, it is unacceptable, as the Prime Minister said, which is why it's so strange that he accepted it. Right. His government produced a briefing note which exposed these threats to the MP's family 2 years ago.
Poilievre said that Trudeau's leadership has been marked by a sequence of unfulfilled pledges and wasted chances. He referred to Trudeau's first promise to create sunny ways and usher in a new age of openness and accountability in government. However, after almost a decade in power, Poilievre said that Trudeau's performance could have been better than these ambitious goals. Instead, he said that Trudeau's tenure has been marred by scandals, divisive language, and a failure to solve the country's real challenges.
Canadians are now getting the bill for the Prime Minister's $500 billion of inflationary deficits that first drove up inflation and now drive up interest rates. For a typical family that bought a typical home with a typical mortgage 5 years ago but are now up for renewal, they're paying $7,000 more per year. The Prime Minister said that the government was going to take on all this debt.
In contrast, Poilievre positioned himself as a leader who would restore Canadians' trust in their government. He stressed his commitment to openness and accountability, vowing to strengthen procedures to avoid conflicts of interest and hold government personnel to the greatest ethical standards. He also promised to put everyday Canadians' interests first, concentrating on real solutions to the economic and social difficulties they confront. Poilievre's leadership style, as he described it, would be marked by a readiness to make difficult choices and stand up for what's right, especially in the face of political resistance. He presented this as a striking contrast to Trudeau's preference for political expediency and image control over actual genuine action.
With the Trudeau Foundation in close to 10 years. And that includes not knowing about what donations are taking, what decisions they're making, or what my brother is doing on the foundation. I have made that decision 10 years ago to not engage with the foundation, and that is what we have all been consistent with.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The debate between Poilievre and Trudeau has far-reaching repercussions for Canadian politics. For Trudeau, the showdown poses a severe challenge to his leadership at a time when his administration is already under fire on numerous fronts. The ferocity and personal character of Poilievre's assault may further weaken Trudeau's popularity among those dissatisfied with his current leadership. For Poilievre, the encounter provided a chance to strengthen his position as opposition leader and promote himself as a genuine alternative to Trudeau. Poilievre's forthright and powerful attack on Trudeau meant to illustrate his strength and resolve to lead Canada through difficult times. The success of this plan will be determined by Poilievre's ability to capitalize on the momentum produced by this debate, while also broadening his appeal beyond the Conservative Party's conventional basis.
Even Mark Carney, who will be the successor to the current Liberal leader, is saying that inflation is a homegrown problem. He's right. It's caused by the $500 billion of inflationary deficits that have bid up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest that we pay. And today, rates went up another half point, meaning many families will be handing in their keys to the banks.
In the days after the exchange, political experts and pundits have debated the possible long-term consequences for both people. Some argue that Poilievre's strong stance will motivate his followers and help him gain ground in the polls. Others, however, have warned that such an aggressive manner may alienate more moderate voters, seeking a leader who can unify the nation rather than exacerbate differences. The showdown between Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau was more than simply a political spat. It was a watershed event that might influence Canada's future leadership. Poilievre's direct and personal approach made an unforgettable impression, indicating that the fight for Canada's leadership still needs to be done. As Canada prepares for the next federal election, the stakes couldn't be greater. Trudeau's ability to withstand Poilievre's unrelenting criticism and reestablish his leadership will be critical in deciding if he can win a fourth term in power. Meanwhile, Poilievre's goal will be to sustain the momentum of his campaign and persuade Canadians that he's the leader they need to tackle the difficult problems of the coming years.
Canadians, as the economy gets going again, and we're there to support them now with help with the GST rebate that's going to arrive in the coming weeks, and with direct support for dental care and for low-income renters. The question, Mr. Speaker, is why are Conservative politicians not choosing to support Canadians on dental and rental?
Ultimately, the fate of this political war will be determined by each leader's ability to connect with Canadians' problems and ambitions. In an era of economic uncertainty, social divide, and global unpredictability, the choice of leadership will have far-reaching repercussions for Canada's future. So what are your thoughts on this entire debate, and who do you think is going to win in the upcoming election? Make sure you let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.